podcast with Joe and Dave. Be warned, the discussions in this podcast will contain detailed spoilers. For spoiler-free reviews of newly released films, please check out our channel Reviews Without Remorse on YouTube and VidMe. Enter at your own risk and enjoy the show. Welcome to Reviews Without Remorse. I am your host, Joe, but I am no hero. I'm just a clown dressed up as a sex toy. And with me, as always, is David. He doesn't have any powers. He just saw the ad.
Nice.
This is episode number 66, and in this episode, my good friend David tricked me into subjecting myself to the Happytime Murders trailer. Listen in as I cuss him out for it.
Yes!
And Hollywood has lost a legend. You might not know his name, but you know his work. Bill Gold, the man behind the most iconic movie posters ever, has passed on. We will tribute the man and his work. And finally, don't call it a comeback, the Merc with a Mouth is back in Deadpool 2. Does it live up to the original? Dave and I will tear it up. What's up, partner?
I had a feeling you were going to have that reaction to the Happytime Murders trailer, and I love it! So I'm doing really good, actually. Thank you very much.
You two are the most decorated officers in this department. What do you see?
Looks like a robbery gone wrong to me.
This wasn't a robbery, this was a hit.
What the?
Someone out there is killing puppets.
Hey, handsome.
You looking for some rotten cotton?
I'm a woman. That's okay.
Yeah, that's even
Got
better.
a good time for you.
Oh, man. So I saw this at the beginning of the Deadpool 2 movie, and it was like it was like the unrated version of it. And I was like, oh my God, this is a train wreck. We have to talk about it.
Oh my God. I didn't even really, it was one of those, I'm like, what the hell am I watching? And then as it started to go on, I'm like, oh no. And it just got worse and worse and worse. I'm like, you have to be kidding me.
Okay, so early 2000s, there was a television show called Greg the Bunny. And Greg the Bunny was actually a pretty funny show. The idea that the puppets that you see on like the morning kids show were just actors and who had lives outside of the thing, and the puppets kind of interacted with, you know, regular people as if they were just regular people. Okay, kind of like if Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but in puppet world.
Right.
Okay, it was a relatively clever show for the time. It had its moments of funny, but it didn't last long. It lasted a complete a first season at most. This movie is kind of in that vein, and it's fucking horrible. And I'm sorry that you're gonna have to bleep that out.
It was f***ing horrible. I don't mind saying it either. It was, and you're right. The first thing that popped into my mind was Roger Rabbit, because of course it's not just it's very much, it's a murder mystery with puppets instead of cartoons, and frankly it looks a lot less inspired, and it looks like, how can we possibly do the most gross out jokes ever? And it was, again, I'm finding like anything with Melissa McCarthy these days is going to be just so incredibly predictable. Like, what can we do now? How can we gross out as much as possible? And of course, like, you know, the puppet jizzing all over the place like he's like they're spraying a silly string,
or whipped cream can, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like, yeah, of course. And, you know, like, you know, just as he's finished, it's like, what? He goes again. I'm like, yeah, all right, I know. Yeah. Like, again, nothing that was very original or inspired. And again, it just doesn't look, I guarantee, if this might even be like a career ender for her. Like, it looks that bad. Like, this could really just finish her up for good.
Man, for me, it was kind of like, look, you know, you had picture the executives who greenlit this movie and all that stuff, who paid 20th Century Fox money to put this in front of Deadpool, thinking to themselves, oh boy, you know, one of the most irreverent movies that made so much money, we're going to have an instant built-in audience. And it's like these people just don't understand what it is that makes Deadpool good. It's not about the cringy parts. There are cringy parts. There's always going to be cringy parts, but it's never over the top in your face. Simon Pegg and Nick Frost and Edgar Wright once said that the way that they approached doing the Coronado trilogy, Shaun of the Dead, The World's End, and Hot Fuzz, was first we wrote a story from beginning to end, and then we put the jokes in. Which, to me, that works. It's like, yes, make sure you have a story before you start putting in the jokes. This movie kind of feels like that they just had jokes that they wrote around. And I could just tell immediately it's not going to work. And it's sad too because like there's a concept there that could potentially work in the right hands, but not this way.
Yeah, and you're right. It is hard. It's hard to know exactly what. Because again, there's a part of me that's thinking of Team America: World Police, and there's,
right.
I mean, again, they did not hold back at certain points. I mean, they went as far as they could have gone if you watch the unrated version.
Oh yeah.
But there, it's funny. Why am I cutting this one up for trying? But it's, I don't know, like they're trying way too hard, and some of it, again, it just looks way too predictable, and it's been done already. I mean, it's kind of been done already, and I don't know. Like I said, I kind of, like I said, I feel like every time I see a commercial with Melissa McCarthy, I'm going to see the jokes that I've seen already. Like you know exactly what's coming next. I mean, you can almost figure out what her next career choice is going to be. Like if you just sort of watch the things she's done so far, like, well, what's next? Well, next she'll try something. I mean, she did the spy movie, she did the Ghostbusters. Now she's doing this. All right, what genre is she going to try to tackle next? And with the same old jokes and the same old whatever. I don't know. Like I said, she's funny in certain things, and I mean, there was one. I think the one that people hated that she was in, that one with what was he called, Tammy? I mean, that I thought had funnier parts in that than pretty much anything I've seen her in since.
Yeah.
Whatever. But yeah, you forced me to watch this thing, and I watched it, and
sometimes I have to push
on you for doing that, sir.
Sorry, sir. Sometimes I have to push your face into the poop. This is written by a man named Todd Berger. It's either Berger or Berger, hard to say, who has not done a hell of a lot. And the surprising part is it's directed by Brian Henson. Yes, the Brian Henson. So, yeah, I'm not sure where it is these people thought they were going with this, but yeah, I didn't laugh once. I kind of gave a bemused chuckle at the, spray paint orgasm scene. I was like, and then it kept going. It's like, huh. Right,
exactly. Yeah. Okay, take it one step too far. That might be one of the reasons why it kind of bothered me too, because I mean, they really did. The whole beginning was, and I guess that's the joke, but the whole beginning was like, from the people who brought you the Muppet Caper and the Muppet this, and I mean, it was like they really were it was almost like they were intentionally tying it together with the real life Muppets, and I kind of was like, but no, like I don't know. I kind of felt like, I have no problem with you parodying and taking this genre and kind of doing a goof on the Muppets. Okay, but don't literally do it. Like, I mean, yeah, I mean they kept mentioning this like I'm like, I get it. I can see that they're Muppets. You don't got to hit me over the head with it. So yeah. I think that the fact that they were doing that really kind of bothered me, because I thought, like, and again, not to put my old man hat on, but I feel like what little kids might see that and say, "Oh, what is this?" And now we got to explain when they see it what. Oh, that's silly string. Don't worry about it. Just pretend you didn't see it.
Get off my lawn.
Nope, not looking forward to this. Not on my list. I won't even. I mean, if somebody gave me money and said, "Here, the only thing you could do with this money is watch this movie," I would burn the money.
Yeah, seriously. And I think we've spent way too much time on this movie than I would have wanted, but.
Harry, what is it?
The stuff that dreams are made of.
Huh?
Bill Gold died at 98. I guarantee you've never heard his name before. I will be completely honest with you. Until I saw his obituary, I didn't know who he was. But Blazing Saddles, A Clockwork Orange, The Exorcist, Casablanca. Look up those movie posters, the iconic movie posters for those movies. That was him. Steve McQueen's Bullets, Rope, Marathon Man, All the President's Men. That was him.
It's a loss, yeah. It is. Not only it's a loss of a great artist, and also part of the industry has gotten lost. Have you seen, by the way? Have you seen The Shape of Water?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
I finally got around to seeing it just last week, and incidentally, as one of the side characters was somebody who did paintings for like the classic advertisements. Like in this case, he was doing like a painting of a family eating Jell-O, and of course, like in the movie, he's getting phased out because they're moving towards taking just pictures. Yeah. And again, you as you're watching it, you feel the loss of a great industry. And yeah, I mean, we've got decades and decades of great film posters, great artwork that, again, we'll never really have again because they keep going back to very, very lazy. And incidentally, the James Bond posters come to mind. Very lazy posters with very lazy photographs, just plain old promo shots, and very lackluster, very uninspired. So yeah, boy, his stuff was beyond iconic. I mean, he did some fantastic work.
You could easily. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's it.
You could easily say that him and Drew Strzelan were two like huge influencers in movie posters. I mean, even look at his movie poster for Diamonds Are Forever. Not my favorite Bond movie, but damn, that's a nice poster. Lots going on there. Yeah. And in a weird way, there's influence of that to this day. The final Infinity War poster is very reminiscent of the Bill Gold Strzelan days of movie posters. Yeah. You know?
I'll agree with that.
So it's still there, but you know, there's just something about the industry today that's like when it's supposed to be a serious, hardcore movie, it's like, no, we just got to have that solitary shot of the character with his gun in the air or something like that. Some BS shot like that. Yeah. Or, you know, a shot from behind or something like that. That's the cliche. But I say to you, look at Bill Gold's poster for Dirty Harry or look at his poster for Pale Rider. Now, you know the Pale Rider one. It's the kind of like sepia-toned one with Eastwood's face on it. Yeah. Look at those posters and tell me that those aren't 10 times more iconic and intimidating than anything that they've done with the Bond posters in the past maybe 5 to 10 years.
I totally agree.
Bill was 94. He passed away Monday. And, you know, I hope that type of artistry when it comes to movie posters. This is a man who made posters you wanted to hang. They weren't just advertisements. This is the problem with posters today. Most of them are just advertisements. Yeah. These were art. He did art that also served as advertisement. He did art first, advertisement second. That
completely
was
agree.
Gift.
Look up on YouTube. There's one of the few people that I actually give money to. One of the people I do a Patreon donation to every month. Good Bad Flicks, and he has a video called WTF Happened to Movie Posters.
There you go.
And it's a very, very good watch. This guy does actually very good work, and that particular, yeah. So, what the F happened to movie posters? Good Bad Flicks. Check it out.
And that pretty much will say all we have to say about both the flicks and this wonderful gentleman who this world is now without.
Agreed. Thank you for your art, sir.
Actually, that may have been me.
Oh, you're living the dreams, DP.
Yeah.
Devil may care attitude. Strong thighs. beautiful girlfriend?
Sorry I'm late. I was rounding up all the gluten in the world and launching into space where it can't not hurt us ever again.
Kiss me like you miss me, Red.
Foul-mouthed mutant mercenary Wade Wilson, aka Deadpool, brings together a team of fellow mutant rogues to protect a young boy of supernatural abilities from the brutal, time-traveling mutant Cable. Written by Rhett Reese, Paul Wernick, and Ryan Reynolds, based on Deadpool, created by Rob Liefeld and Fabian Nicosia, directed by David Leitch. Deadpool 2. Oh my god! What fun! I don't know if you had fun. I had a blast. Say something.
Agreed.
Thank God.
No. It was again. It falls into the category of I walked in kind of saying to myself, this thing would have to. There's no way I'm not going to enjoy this, because I mean you saw enough in the trailers. You've seen enough leading up to it. And again, I mean there was multiple. Not even trailers, but just little videos that he was shooting to remind you that the movie was coming. And yeah, I mean, so it is absolutely a joy to watch. It's a ton of fun. Does it live up to the original? Almost. I will say almost. And again, it's one of those where, again, the first one was so fresh and so new and so original that you knew it was going to be tough to live up to, because right. you now know what you're in for. You know sort of what the formula is. So the surprises are a little more conventional, which does not mean there are not surprises. There are great surprises in this, but I sort of felt that this one was much more of a very linear story than the original, which sort of bounced around and sort of played in that, that fourth wall breaking fun that the first one had, where you could sort of tell the story however you felt like. You could tell it in parts, and we'll cut to here and cut to there. Here was more of like a straightforward story. Mm-hmm. So again, so that was interesting. And again, there were things about it that right off the bat made me kind of go, oh, okay. For one thing, I was very surprised that we lost Vanessa. And again, how much time did I spend last week talking about how I thought the structure of that film, the foundation of that film, was really the love story between the two. Right. And I felt everything else was ornamentation, just sort of hanging on that central idea and that central conflict that he's overcoming obstacles to get back to his girl. Here, when they bumped her off in the beginning, I almost had kind of an Austin Powers 2 feeling, like, I guess that means I'm single again. Yeah.
But it wasn't quite that cavalier, was it?
No, it was not. And it was the springboard, to set the story in motion. Like, now what? Mm-hmm. And he wants to kind of do right by her as she's gone. But it's still, again, I found that I sort of felt like it pulled the rug out from under me a little bit when they did that. And even though, spoilers, it does kind of get rectified way late in the game, which I thought was sort of fun and clever and fascinating in its own way. I mean, frankly, there's a part of me that wants to talk about all after the post-credit stuff already, because it was just so good. But yeah, I mean, it does sort of rectify itself, and the story doesn't cheap shot, by the way, and find a way to segue. Like they don't pull that out early and say, "Oh, look, everything is fine." I mean, no, they see it through. They start out with something and they go forward with it and they see it through. So, I have to give them credit for that too. But again, I thought it was a little odd as it was sort of happening. But again, I can't really ding it for that. It's not like I can really say, oh, the movie screwed up by doing that. No, again, you had to sort of, again, the struggle this time around was, what are we going to do now to keep it sort of original, keep you sort of guessing, and, keep the same fun that the first one had, but sort of keep it fresh. Okay, well, they can't do another love story with Vanessa. So, what are we going to do now? Anyway, having said that, I think the whole thing was a lot of fun. It was a lot of laughs, a lot of surprises. I really did. There were things that I was not expecting to happen.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah, those are my preliminaries. My friend, you take it for... What did you think?
I suspected Vanessa wasn't long for the movie just from her presence in the trailers.
Yes, I wanted to say that too, by the way. You're right. I did sort of wonder why she was so absent from the trailers, but I was surprised with... But go ahead, you're right.
I suspected that. So when the big gunfight happened in the beginning, you're like, ooh, this would be an interesting twist of it. And I actually rather enjoyed pulling the rug out, down to the wonderful James Bond-esque opening.
Was that not...
with the Celine Dion song and, the opening credits being, holy shit, did they just kill her? As the credits.
Right, yeah. Yeah, which kind of kept in line with the first credits of the first movie, but a little different. Not only was that a James Bond opening, by the way, I thought that was completely Skyfall. That was the Skyfall opening.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I know the Skyfall opening. You're absolutely right.
It was
and it totally explains why. Because we saw the music video for Ashes like a couple of weeks ago, and it was like, and I remember thinking to myself, it's kind of got a Skyfall vibe. And then after seeing the movie, it's like, well, that's why.
There you go.
and it fit in perfectly, right down to directed by the guy who killed the dog in John Wick.
Yeah, that's funny.
But you see, that was kind of, to me, brilliant. I mean, they took this scene, they opened up the movie basically showing him, getting ready to kill himself with the little Wolverine statue figure and stuff like that, which was very nice.
Yeah.
And I just, it hooked me. It immediately hooked me. I said to myself, I don't know if they're going to retcon this or not, but I'm along for the ride. Because, I could totally, the little montage at the beginning of him going after bad people for money and stuff like that was neat, but I couldn't think to myself how they could maintain it as a movie. Nor could I figure out how Vanessa would fit into this. What would he do? What would give him the inspiration to go out there if she was still there? She was like the priority. She was the she was the end game in the first movie. So once she was dead, I was like, okay, well, I see where that's going. And I kind of liked the departure that they took with the character. That, he went to an actual dark place, blowing himself up. I hate that I say so much, but, blowing himself up. Trying to figure out his whole point in life. Becoming an X-Men trainee. Training.
Yeah.
Training.
That was pretty funny.
All that I thought was, considering what came before, Vanessa's death did become a logical extension as to why they needed to do that. Nothing against the actress, nothing against their chemistry. They still had tremendous chemistry, and I can't. What's funny? My kid was watching one of those Watch Mojo Top 10 things on YouTube today, and this was, Ryan Reynolds' top 10 roles that he's ever played. And one of the things that they noted in it is that Ryan Reynolds has this ability that no matter which co-star he's with, he just has this tremendous chemistry with them. And I was like, that's kind of true. Even the silly romantic lead stories that he does, you kind of always believe that he truly is into this woman each time. Yeah. He really brings that across in each one. And that was part of the joy of the relationship between Vanessa and Wade. And so I believed it 100% that he would be suicidal, that he would want to end it all, and that it was, and the back and forth of him going to the afterlife and coming back and going to the afterlife and coming back would be part of the thing that kept him going. From a character's perspective, based on the first movie, it was a logical direction to go, because I don't think Deadpool in real life would have given a flying flute about this kid if it wasn't for the fact that Vanessa said what she did. Well, then again, another character trait when he found out that the people at Essex House was abusing the kid, that goes right back to original Wade Wilson. It's like no, that stuff doesn't fly.
Right.
I found it. Go ahead.
No, you're right. I completely agree with you. I think it was certainly not a betrayal of the character in any way. I completely agree with you, and yeah, I do. I also think it was logical for them to give him, a reason to go on and a reason to try to become a little bit more of a good guy. Otherwise, we might have been like, but then again, I don't know. Put it this way, I also like the idea when I went back and watched some of the trailers after seeing the film. A lot of the trailers show Vanessa talking about how children make us better people, and it's very, again, now having seen the movie, we know that she's talking about having their own children, but in the context when you see it, you think they're talking about the boy that he, and like it's almost like she's talking him into taking care of that kid and protecting that kid, and I thought, and again, so. I suppose what my point is that I think you probably could have done it without bumping her off altogether, but still it was a pretty smart move, I guess. I guess I'm kind of straddling the fence and I'm struggling because I'm saying to myself, there was a part of me that just kind of didn't like seeing her get killed off, and again the whole point of the last film was to win her, so to bump her off in the beginning, I kind of thought was. I don't know. On one hand, I find it to be a little bit of a cheap shot. Like I said, very Austin Powers too, kind of a, like to free him up to go off to do his own thing, to get him back to being, like Lethal Weapon 2 does similar. Like Lethal Weapon 2, in the first one, he's getting over his wife, so he's kind of crazed. By the second one, when he's starting to calm down again, they bump off his new girlfriend, so now he's crazy again. And again, it's not, it's a working function to get the character, where we need him to be. But I guess there was a part of me that was a little heartbroken, I suppose. And it was almost like I was sort of resenting it as I'm watching the rest of the film. And again, I'm not trying to say that it ruined my experience by any stretch. It's again, I sort of get a little caught up in the small little bits here and there sometimes. And this is one of those, where part of me kind of couldn't let go of the idea that they bumped her off, and I was a little, but still, it did.
Joe, you're showing your softer side.
I showed it last week. I got to show it again this week. Again, like I said, because I felt so strongly that the romance in the first one was really the cornerstone of the film. So to sort of just do away with that so early on here, I was a little. But, again, and I really didn't expect them to bring her back, frankly, because I was wondering in the comic even, like, is Vanessa such a big part of this? Maybe Deadpool's story doesn't really have to do with her very much. So, I have expected them to sort of move on from that. But again, it was like I said, if I'm so invested in the first one, in her, in their, trying to get them back together. To break it off so early in this one kind of got me. But again, I'll with that I will let that point go because again it was not. I'm probably making it a bigger point than it really was.
Yeah, possibly. I think what we have here, Joe, is because we kind of waxed poetic on the romance. We felt it was one of the most romantic pairings in any superhero movie, save maybe for Lois and Clark.
Right.
That's exactly what we called it. So. It is kind of heartbreaking when that happens, but so cinematically, writing-wise, I completely understand why they went the direction that they did, and but I completely understand your points, absolutely, and with the way I feel, I kind of agree. I kind of wish, but this is Deadpool. They got to do something daring and different, and
agreed. Yeah,
they did.
They absolutely did. Right, and like I said. As we go forward, like I said, there was a lot more that kind of kept me guessing. There were a lot of surprises in this. So, and you're right. If it was hampered by clinging on to, again, you don't want sequels to be like 1.0. You want this to be a new story, whatever. So you don't want to do like just an extension of what they've already done.
Right. Exactly. So the basic gist of the story goes that after after Vanessa's dead, Wade's trying to put his life back together. Colossus won't give up on him, brings him to the X-Mansion. Hysterical 5-second cameo of every other X-Men behind the door.
That was can I tell you something? I would go to see this again just for that shot because I'm dying to see. I'm like, who's it? Like just as you're sort of realizing, oh my god, the X-Men are in there. Like you see Beast sort of close the door, and it's like, so now I want to go back and be like, wait, who was in there? I couldn't see.
I can tell you exactly. It was Quicksilver. It was Professor X. You briefly saw Professor X. It was Beast. It was Storm, and it was Cyclops.
And was it?
It was all the actors who play them in the X-Men movie, in the upcoming X-Men Dark Phoenix movie.
Oh, so it's like the younger versions.
Yes.
So it was McAvoy, not Stewart.
McAvoy, not Stewart, exactly.
Okay, all right.
I don't know for sure if it was actually James McAvoy because you kind of only really saw a bald head real quick.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say one way or the other. Okay. But yes, you had that wonderful cameo there. And here is one of my little dings. Okay. Now in the first movie, Colossus was all CGI and was kept that way, both a little bit as a jokey joke and also because, we're not really supposed to necessarily take him serious. He's supposed to be like this little Boy Scout, trying to get him in there. Mm-hmm. But there was an actual arc for Colossus in this movie where he is truly trying to help Wade, and Wade basically just pees all over it. Not literally, but and I have to point out not literally because this is Deadpool. And I kind of felt like, weirdly, that keeping him CGI Colossus was a detriment. I felt like it undercut any of the emotion that they were trying to portray for that scene, throughout the scenes. Granted, at the end when he pulls the freaking spike out of his head, him having to be Colossus, that's fine, I get it. But the CGI being still reminiscent of the first one, which you think would, with the bigger budget, would preclude much better CGI. It just kind of took me out of it. And the guy who they got for the voiceover, no offense to the guy, I thought it was great in the first movie, but now they're trying to be much more serious about it, and now his really bad Russian accent just sounds so off that any emotion or depth that they try to portray kind of feels undercut.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I'll agree with you there. I really didn't. I've heard people say that the CGI was a little weak in certain spots, and yeah, I hear what you're saying. I mean, it did. I mean, I felt like he looked pretty much how he looked in the first one.
Exactly. There's nothing wrong with that, but for the first one, there was an excuse.
Yeah.
They made.
You were hoping they were kind of get that a little bit better for this one.
Yeah, I thought that they would bring their... they upped the way Negasonic's powers worked, which I thought looked beautiful. Mm-hmm. And they upped... the fire effects for Russell, I thought looked great. I thought they're really well done. So I don't understand why the heck they kind of, cut the budget on CGI Colossus. And then it makes it worse later when they're having the big, time for the big CGI fight, hee ha ha and everything like that. But then as it's happening, it's kind of like... weirdly, here's what I'm going to say. Weirdly, this movie suffered from coming out after Infinity War. I think I might have forgiven it more if Thanos just didn't work so damn well in Infinity War. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
completely.
So yeah, that was the only thing that really took me out of it in the movie. But yes, so the mission is, they find this kid who's freaking out at Essex House. Essex House, by the way, is so named after Nathaniel Essex, who was the character Mr. Sinister.
Okay.
So that's where they were going with that. The guy was kind of a combination of the Richard Stryker from the infamous. And ladies and gentlemen, if you ever read one X-Men comic in your life, find the graphic novel God Loves, Man Kills. Truly, some of the finest work by John Byrne and some of the finest writing by Christopher Claremont. And, they sort of kind of translated it in the second X-Men movie. They haven't really done a really good translation of it. It's a really good graphic novel, but that's who that guy was supposed to be reminiscent of. The religious zealot who was like, kill all the mutants, blah, 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 type of situation.
Okay.
You know, although I also kind of took it as a dig at like gay conversion therapy.
Yeah, well, which I think a lot of the X-Men, all of the X-Men legend, or however you want to call it, has always sort of been about that.
Yeah. So the story is that Russell is losing his mind. He's being tortured. Deadpool wants to save him. Deadpool gets kicked off the X-Men, winds up going to a Supermax, where they give him these collars. They finally introduce the mutant dampening power collars. And so now Deadpool's dying, and he wants to die.
Yeah, yeah.
And then in comes Cable, because it seems that Russell grows up to be some nasty-ass serial killer in the future who kills Cable's family, so he comes back to kill him.
Yeah.
There's your story. And can we talk about Josh Brolin having a frickin' 2 for 2, please?
Right? Yeah. Oh my God, this guy. Well, I mean, Josh Brolin, he is just a spectacular actor. I mean, it's so funny. I say to myself, how he to me looks like a guy. You take one look at him and you say to him, "You were never a kid. There's no way you were ever a kid." But we saw him as a kid. We saw him in the Goonies. So it's like, I mean, who would ever think that guy would grow up to be the Josh Brolin that we know? Yeah, he is just absolutely spectacular. So there's not much he can't do. So can he juggle two bad guys in the Marvel? Hell yeah, he can.
Well earned. Even when they make the Thanos joke, it's like, you know what? No, that's. I thought that myself. It's like, it's so easy when you're playing, a quote unquote anti-hero, which is Cable, and in the case of Thanos, like, a pure villain. It's like, there's no way there's no crossover, and yet you can't interchange the parts as easily as you can with other actors, and you got to give that to Josh Brolin.
Yeah.
He tremendous. The Cable I've always wanted is finally here. And I really, really, really can't wait to see more of him. I thought the effects for his arm was great. I thought his look was great. Is it comic perfect? Maybe 80%. But you know what? I think 80% is fine in this case.
That's the thing with these films is like, I sometimes I watch some of these things and I do sort of say to myself, like, is this from the comics? I mean, because this is so many of the guys like in X-Force now, we're getting so past my knowledge of comics at this point. I remember X-Force. I vaguely remember some of these people. I do vaguely remember Cable, but I don't remember specifics. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know how comic accurate some of the stuff is, but...
Well, I didn't really dive into his background too much. Actually, it's funny because in the interviews, Ryan Reynolds does know the full history of Cable. He knows that he's Nathan Summers. He is the child of Scott Summers and Madeline Pryor. Long story, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm putting on my geek hat. Sue me. Nerd! He was infected with a technovirus disease and sent into the future as a means to save his life when there was a cure. Mm-hmm. And that's who he is. That's who Cable is. And he became a very popular character. Him and... his main girlfriend for many years was Domino, who was also introduced in this movie. Now, Domino's look, not really comic accurate.
Mm-hmm.
But I have zero problem with the actress who played the part, and I felt the way that they, because she has the silliest, it's true, and they even make fun of it in the movie. She has the silliest, mutant power. She has luck. It's like, it's not really cinematic. That sounds like an idea you'd get from a guy who can't draw feet. Which, thank you for the Rob Liefeld dig.
That's funny. I thought that was pretty clever. I don't know. Well, whatever. I mean, I do say to myself, like, is that a mutant power to have luck? It's almost like, I don't know. Luck to me implies that you have somebody looking over your shoulder at all times and changing things for you.
Right.
I don't know. Because, I mean, luck would mean different things in different circumstances. I did find that to be a little odd, but hey, if it's from the comic, I'll take it, Yeah. And it did provide some cinematic moments that were funny,
Yeah. Her falling into the bear when the thing fell off the thing. When she jumps into the truck, happens to land exactly right. The guy's gun jams at the exact right moment. All that stuff. That was very well portrayed. In 5 seconds, it's like, okay, now I see her power.
Mm.
They brought back Negasonic, and then they put the rest of X-Force together, which consisted of Vanisher, Zeitgeist, Bedlam, Shatterstar, and Peter. And you want to talk about brilliant marketing. I'm going to take it back a little bit about the trailer at this point, just to point something out. And I mean, we're well into spoiler territory, so I don't care anymore. Okay. In the marketing, they introduced each of the members of X-Force with their own little action shots in the trailers. That you never see in the movie because they die in the first 5 seconds of the mission. All of them but Domino.
Who could have known the wins? Everyone knew, you idiot.
And they all died awesomely.
Oh my God.
You had Zeitgeist in the freaking wood chipper, which, you know, by the way, Zeitgeist was played by Bill Skarsgård, who played Pennywise the Clown in It.
Oh, right.
All right. He also takes out poor Peter. Bedlam hits a bus. Shatterstar is kind of like one of those comic book characters I've always wanted to see brought to life because I love the look of his swords and stuff like that. Now we don't even get to see his swords. He gets in his costume. That's exactly the costume that Shatterstar wears. But then he hits a helicopter blade and it gets torn to pieces. But for sheer beauty, the Vanisher, who throughout the movie, from his introduction, all you saw was a invisible man in a parachute, only to have him hit power lines and reveal for maybe 7 frames Brad Pitt.
I was like, wow, who knew all along he was being played by Brad Pitt? That was pretty funny. I was a little confused by that because I'm like, that looks like Brad Pitt from like 15 years ago, though. he looked like Tyler Durden in that shot, but but still, it was great.
Brad Pitt still looks good even today, so I'm not going to complain about it. But that was great. I mean, I read an interview after. It's like, yeah, he came in, 7 seconds of filming, done, nicest guy on the planet. You know, and he did it. It seems he did it for a coffee.
Was that right?
Yeah, that was his pay. He took a coffee.
Nice. And wasn't Matt Damon in here for something too, like a brief shot? Wasn't it? It was one of the rednecks, wasn't he?
Yes. When Cable first arrives, there's 2 rednecks talking. Redneck number 1, heavily made up, is Matt Damon. Redneck number 2 was Alan Tudyk. He's a favorite from Firefly and a bunch of other things. If you ever saw him, you'd know who he was.
Okay.
Yep. So they had those cameos.
So Matt Damon loves to photobomb these comic movies now.
Yeah, and you know it's funny too because it seems they wanted Damon to be in Spider-Man Homecoming 2 or whatever they wind up calling it, but he turned it down, and now it seems it's going to be Jake Gyllenhaal. So whatever, you know, we'll see what happens.
Okay.
You know, they brought back Blind Al. Dopinder was back, and come on, Dopinder was freaking like silly awesome.
Oh my God!
I want to be a Kirsten Dunst.
we're gonna pretend we're never gonna speak of this again. Yeah. He's like, I want meaning. I want this. I want that. I want to be a contract killer. What? That was pretty funny.
The movie is seriously just fun. Throughout. You're not going into this movie saying to yourself, I'm about to see high art. And you're not going into this movie to have your soul crushed the way Infinity War did. If anything, this is the perfect movie. If you've just seen Infinity War, buy a ticket to Deadpool, you'll feel a lot better.
Yeah. I think the baby legs alone would probably cheer anybody up.
Oh my God. You don't watch Rick and Morty. All my Rick and Morty fans out there, if you saw this movie and you saw those baby legs, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I love when he does the Basic Instinct, the Sharon Stone.
I am pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it's a baby penis.
Did I just see what I thought I saw?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But then, ladies and gentlemen, yes, in case it's not clear, we do recommend that you see this. We really had a good time. We laughed. There was a lot to see, a lot to do. It was fun. I felt that the script made sense. But now we have to talk about the thing. We have to talk about the post-credits.
Greatest post-credits ever.
I have to agree. And I've loved all the Marvel ones. But this is... The conceit is... The part of the story is that Cable's time travel device has enough energy for 2 points. Point 1 was when he came back in time, and point 2 will be when he goes back to the future. And at one point in the movie, Deadpool dies. Which, by the way, unlike when Spider-Man died, even though when I knew that Spider-Man was coming back, I still got emotionally wrapped up with Spider-Man. I did not get emotionally wrapped up here because I knew that something was coming. So I couldn't really feel the death. And sure enough, it inspires Cable to go back in time and make it so that Deadpool still does his sacrifice to change the kid, but without him actually dying, which is fine. The post-credit scene has him fixing the time device, has Negasonic and her girlfriend fix the time device, and then
that was, I tell you, and it was so well done. Honestly, when he goes back and he brings back Vanessa basically. Mm-hmm. And again, this like I said, I don't even want to go down this road because it gets so trippy when you think about it. Because it's like, if he rescues Vanessa, then would he have joined the thing? So does he really even have to go back and rescue what's his face again? Because he would never have been there because he never did X-Force because whatever. But whatever. It's like I can't even go down that road. It's like fourth wall beyond fourth wall. This is like 16 walls. But when he goes back and he kills the guy with the butter spread or whatever it was, and fixes that, I was like, that was great by itself.
Right.
But then, oh my God, when he shows up in X-Men Origins Wolverine, I was hysterical.
The entire audience lost it. I lost it. I was just laughing my damn head off. That had to be cathartic for him. Had to be cathartic for him.
Oh, totally. Oh, I mean, that's always been the running gag with this is that they completely ruined. I mean, and it's amazing too when you look back on that. Oh, yeah, when you look back on that iteration of, it's like, man, what the hell were they thinking? These people,
dude, don't know, but you know what? As far as I'm concerned, retconned.
And then when he took it one step further with Green Lantern.
Yeah. You're welcome, Canada. Yes, poor
He's reading the script.
Reynolds.
He's like, you're in the big leagues now.
Bam!
Oh my God, that was great.
The point that we're trying to make, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, we've completely spoiled the movie now. There's basically no reason. If you're still listening and you hadn't decided you're going to the movies, we've kind of spoiled all of it. I kind of hope that you're not one of those people that listen to the show before you go, because we're going to do that. Because part of what Joe and I do is we're going to gush over the stuff that just tickled us. Yeah, not just the, okay, we went through the plot, we went through the psychological, we went through all that, and we're spending the rest of this just enjoying the joy of it, the fun of it. The fact that after the somberness of Infinity War, after, the disappointment of Ready Player One and the, God, I really wish I hadn't told you to put that on the calendar, Tomb Raider, here is wonder and brightness and fun and just unapologetic about what it is. Yeah. You have to appreciate that.
Completely agreed.
We getting close. You all know the drill. Intercept the convoy. Watch out for Cable. Hit it!
Well, sir, guess where we're at.
Is it that time already? I guess so.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I've got my timer up. I time it very, very closely. That's part of my job.
So, who's going first?
I'll go first if that's all right with you. So,
sure.
Deadpool 2. I gave it a 9 out of 10. Now, as you know, I gave 10 out of 10 to Deadpool last week because I felt like I couldn't find anything wrong with the movie, and that was really what it was. This is also not a perfect movie, but it's not meant to be a perfect movie, and that's part of it. That's why this is supposed to be the movie that when you say to people, movies are not only art but they're entertainment. This is that movie you can show. This is the entertainment side of movies. Because even with its crassness, even with its over-the-topness, there's still a universal language to the movie that just works. Ryan Reynolds is just so damn charming as Deadpool. Josh Brolin is amazing as Cable. I was kind of, as much as I was prepared for it, I still was kind of shocked at the kind of way they pulled the rug out from under us. It was extremely well directed. The action was great. all the fight scenes I thought were really, really good, with the exception of the fight between Colossus and the Juggernaut.
You can't stop him. Oh, you can't stop this mother. Holy shitballs! Holy shitballs!
I just, I laughed. I laughed when they shoved the electrode up his butt and threw him in the water. And I certainly laughed when Juggernaut went up to Deadpool and said,
I'm gonna rip you in half now.
And did.
Yep.
And by the way, Juggernaut was voiced by Ryan Reynolds.
I heard that. That was kind of interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, the CGI side, I had fun. I laughed. I was tired when I went to this movie, and by the end of it, I was energized. I was awake. I was happy. It's just a nice, fun flick to really, really enjoy. And kudos to all the writers. Kudos to David Leitch. I was worried about the Tim Miller loss, and it turns out my worries were for nothing. And just, yeah, very enjoyable. Not perfect. Not as strong as the first one, because in a way, Joe, I think you're right. I think losing Vanessa did lose some of the heart from the first movie. But I do still feel that had they tried to stick with that trope from the first movie, then all it would be regurgitating the first movie. It had to go somewhere. Mm-hmm. And I think where they went was just fine as far as the sequel goes. How about you, Joe?
I think you and I are probably on very similar pages with this film. I gave it an 8, and I feel like you and I probably very reflective of our scores last week. We felt like it was almost, up with the original, just not quite. But still, that you're still talking about a wildly entertaining film, a lot of fun. Everything again, full of surprises. Again, the fact that they spent so much time building up X-Force just to basically kill them all off 5 minutes later,
in like less than 2 minutes. Yeah,
in a wood chipper and the electrical wires. I mean, and the helicopter blades. I mean, that was pretty funny. So the whole, again, there was a lot of surprises. We really didn't talk much about Juggernaut. And I thought that was a pretty cool, again, there's a giant buried, there's a monster buried under, so of course you're waiting to see what that's going to be, and then all of a sudden it's Juggernaut. You're like, oh, okay.
That sounds like foreshadowing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and it's funny too because I'm looking at him thinking to myself like, oh, okay, but he still looks kind of like Juggernaut from X-Men 3 actually. I kind of thought the metal hat looked a little, I was expecting more of like that kind of brownish hard leather, whatever he's supposed to be wearing in the comics.
It was actually supposed to be metal in the comics.
Was it? Just okay.
Yeah, it's the only way to protect him from Charles Xavier's psychic attacks. That's why he wears. They even kind of mentioned it. Yeah,
which I thought was cool. I liked that they talked about that. So again, I thought that was a nice surprise. All of it was again just a lot of fun. I remember feeling off the bat too that some of the action was a little different than the first one, because I remember thinking the first one, that every action moment was done with such crystal clarity. Like you knew exactly where they were, what was happening. I mean, again, to keep all of that so organized and the pacing was spectacular. And so, I remember thinking like at the beginning when he was doing the opening montage where he's taking, and I love the Dolly Parton music, by the way. But when they
that
show
was a
him
great choice for that montage.
Yeah, totally. When he goes to work, starts taking out yakuzas and whatever, and I thought that was again, the action was not quite as sharp and focused as the first one. But again, like I said, for something that sort of lives in the X-Men universe, kind of, sort of, the story was good. Everything was really good. I did feel, like I said, the loss of Vanessa in the beginning, a little bit of a kick in the nuts, but still, like you said, I mean, it was, you needed to go different. You can't just repeat the same story again. So again, I all told, I think it was a solid 8. I think it's a great follow-up. I enjoyed it. I would watch it again right now. And again, kudos to Ryan Reynolds because he's doing a great job. It's amazing how much he's so on point throughout the whole thing. I mean, again, every scene he's in, he's chewing up the scenery. He's just on point all the time. To the point where even like these funny little videos they're doing off to the sides are funny. The post credits are hysterical. And again, I kind of feel like just him going back and shooting the other Deadpool alone should give him a point.
So in other words, you actually give this movie a 7. The shot of him shooting bad Deadpool was the extra point.
Takes it up to an 8. Yeah.
That makes sense. Absolutely, that makes sense. All right, sir. Well, then, we both have something. So who asked you?
Gene, I hate for, again, very unoriginal, and I've already talked about it. So I will just sort of say my who asked you is Vanessa. And it was used.
You're such a softie.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah. Again, it's a weird one because again, it's sort of like it's almost like imagine Rocky 2 if they killed off Adrian in the beginning just so that Rocky could be kind of alone and depressed again. It would sit wrong, and I kind of felt like, and I kind of feel like I am being unfair by being so critical with this because they do bring her back at the end. But again, okay, all right, that's fine. But I still am watching the whole movie with this idea that she's gone. So, again, I kind of had mixed feelings with it, and it's almost like, well, don't, it's almost like you're hiding the best part of the film till it's over. So again, it was a part that I just sort of struggled with a lot. Again, like I said, but had the first film not been so focused on them and that not working so well, to take that out of the equation so early in this one, it might not have bothered me so much. But again, it is what it is, and yeah, like I said, it was distracting, I guess. And again, I wouldn't call it a big ding by any stretch because again, it's one of those where I find myself struggling. Is it fair to even criticize it? Is it fair to knock that for that? Because again, I mean, it gave us a good story. It gave us all these things and that it probably couldn't have done if you didn't have that. He's spending the movie in tribute to her in a way. So it wasn't like it was carelessly dismissed. Not at all. It was, it was
certainly
done.
not a careless whisper.
There you go. So, but again, I found that to be very distracting early on, and I'm curious to know if they could have done it another way, sort of. But anyway, that's all I got.
I can't fault you for that line of thinking, Joe. You're right. There was a lot of build up in the first one, but what can you do? For me, dude, can we please see Colossus not metal all the time? Please, just once. I'm seriously, in the first movie it was kind of tee-hee, and I got it and everything like that, but I just kind of felt like, they upped Colossus's time and they tried to make him a bit more serious and tried to be like almost a therapist to Deadpool, who's just gone through this trauma, and the really over-the-top accent and the fact that he was always metal just never allowed me to make that type of connection that they were attempting to do. And then that whole big fight between him and Juggernaut just looked awful.
Yeah. It's funny, as you're talking about Colossus, I feel like the way you're talking about him this week is pretty much exactly what I was saying about him last week.
Yeah.
And it didn't bug you last week, but this week it's
I gave the whole thing I said last week was I gave it a pass because that was, the budgetary nature of this first movie and everything like that. And I was fine with that. But now you have the budget. Now you're being advertised all over the place. If you're bringing it up to the next level, bring that up to the next level. And in fact, the notes I specifically wrote, this was the note under Who Asked You that I wrote. Now I'm on the CGI hate train. So I'm acknowledging that last week I defended it. And this week, yep, You're right. I'm on it now.
Yeah. You know what's interesting now too? I'm wondering because they have an X-Force movie on the schedule,
Yes.
right? They plan to do an X-Force film.
Correct.
So I'm wondering now how that's going to be. And, again, like we talked about how the Colossus probably stayed in metal form the entire time because it's got comedic value.
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to make X-Force funny or are they going to make it a little more serious?
That's a very good question. I don't know.
Yeah.
Technically speaking, Cable was the leader of X-Force in the comics, so
yeah,
I don't know.
And he did say in this one he was going to stick around and clean up things or something or other.
Yeah.
So it would make sense, and he's got his team walking away at the end of this one to start out with at least. So yeah, I'm curious to see how that goes now. Like using the Deadpool movie as a springboard. Are they obligated to make it funnier, or do you think we'll see Colossus now start to go back into his human form?
I don't know. It's a good question. It's all on paper as of right now, so it's hard to say.
Yeah.
What
All right,
about for your consideration, sir?
For your consideration, boy, I am very tempted to give it to just that post-credit scene, taking out the original Deadpool.
I can't blame you, but what did you give it to?
I had a couple things I was sort of juggling, and now I'm sort of.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, I'm very simple. This was a no-brainer for me. Okay, that Bond style opening. That's it. That's exactly what I wrote under my for your consideration. That right there, not only for its satire of the current way that the current, which in itself also homage to the previous way that the Bond movies opened. Having Celine Dion sing the opening song and having the opening credits be like a reaction to the fact that we just saw Vanessa die was freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And I felt just set the tone perfectly for the rest of the movie. Just like the first movie did when it opened up with Juice Newton and Angel of the Morning. So, yes, that was like, I'm on board. I'm on board this crazy-ass train that you're putting me on, Wade Wilson.
Yeah, I did enjoy that very much, and frankly, I also wanted to mention I love how it opened up on the little, I guess what do you call it, the music box of the Logan, impaled on the tree.
Yep.
And I thought it was funny because he goes, not only did they totally rip off my R rating, but they're gonna one up me by killing the main character. Oh yeah, well watch this.
Funny little piece of trivia. The music cue that's playing when Deadpool dies is the exact same music cue from Logan when Logan dies.
I did hear that. Yeah, that was very well played, my friend. Well played. Yeah. I'll tell you what. I am going to give it to the introduction of the X-Force and then just killing them off 5 minutes later because I did find that to be pretty funny. And again, not. There were a lot of great expectations that it's funny. I remember when we talked about the trailers. I remember at one point you were getting a little annoyed about how much they were giving us in the trailers, and I remember thinking like, well, you never know. I kind of feel like now in retrospect that we were a little too hard on that because the stuff that happens in the film, there was a lot of surprises in the film, and I kind of felt like a lot of what was in the trailers was slightly misleading actually.
Yeah, it was, and I'm grateful for that, frankly. Much grateful for that. I would prefer to go see a movie surprised than have it spoiled the way most movies have. So bravo for pulling my expectations. Bravo for the bait and switch. One of the few times that I'm happy with a film trailer's bait and switch. So bravo.
Yeah. When they do that, it can be good. It's funny. We've been back and forth with a lot of trailers that. Again, sometimes they give too much, and sometimes you see the trailer and you don't get that in the actual film. And again, I'm having kind of a love-hate relationship with that idea because I feel like, you know what? I don't want everything spoiled. So if you're going to surprise me by giving me an idea of what's in the film without actually telling me exactly, that kind of works. But then again, there's reasons why that happens. Some of them are pure and some of them less pure. But, yeah, interesting.
Indeed. All told, a fun time at the movies, ladies and gentlemen. This is a great summer so far. This has been a really strong start for the summer between Infinity War and Deadpool. But here comes the train wreck, ladies and gentlemen.
You know what? It's so funny how, again, we haven't even done our Deadpool 2 review, and I'm already dodging major spoilers from Solo. And I tell you what, all I'm going to say is I have a feeling next week's discussion might be very interesting, might be very heated, because I'm already hearing things, and I already got opinions.
Joe, a part of me is sad, because when we first started talking about the Solo movie, you were excited and I was not. And I'm kind of sad that you're down to my level now.
Yeah. I don't know if I was ever actually excited, but I was very willing to give it, at least
benefit of the doubt.
Exactly, and I said again, Rogue One. I still say Rogue One is a great movie, but again,
we're going to be reviewing that the following week, so we'll definitely go over that. Yeah,
that'll be nice to talk about. But oof. I mean, all right. I don't want to.
Yeah, we're not going to go.
We'll save it for next week. But again, it's like I'm just baffled by this franchise at this point.
Just know, ladies and gentlemen, that this is a movie that Joe and I are both going in with a huge chip on our shoulders. So,
which actually, by the way, might be to its advantage. I mean, again, I'm walking in expecting not so good. So my expectations are low, as opposed to walking in with high expectations, which sometimes can, obviously if it doesn't live up to expectations, that's my fault because I walked in with too high expectations. I'm walking in with low, so this movie has the ability to surprise me. It can only go up.
We're special little snowflakes. So until next week, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed the show, Joe. Freaking awesome talking with us about you. Someday we actually have to go see these movies together.
Absolutely. We have to make it happen, my friend.
All right. And see you next week then, sir.
Rock on, my friend. See you next week. Thanks for listening to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Join us here every Thursday for a new episode. And be sure to check out the Reviews Without Remorse channel on YouTube and VidMe for spoiler-free reviews of new releases, as well as in-depth discussions of current and classic cinema. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider becoming a patron. You can find our page at patreon.com. As little as $1 a month goes a long way. All clips in this podcast are used for commentary and critique, and is considered fair use. No copyright infringement is intended.